All right, perfect. So we have our Marlins GM Matt joining us, and I've already enjoyed the portion of our conversation, and we didn't even start yet. So we were chit chatting a little bit about some EA hockey sports, and Matt was talking about how he plays the '94 NHL, and we talked about a little bit about the current Chell leagues, and even I was expressing how the games have gotten so advanced, like Madden and things like that. I haven't played that in a couple of years, but sometimes it is refreshing just to go back to NHL '94 or Tecmo Bowl or something that's a little more simpler. But maybe that's just our age between you and I kind of showing. uh,
Exactly. Well, and they are there. It's like you're playing a game on TV now. Just like
yeah,
you turn on ESPN, you're what I play NHL 23 a lot,
yeah.
and it's like I'm just watching ESPN or TBS or whatever. It is. I like going back to where it was actually a game and not
Yeah.
real life
I've had my
sometimes.
wife walk in and go, well, that's a video game. I thought sometimes it's me and my son, I thought you guys were watching the real game on TV. It's pretty crazy.
Exactly.
You
And
know,
I tell you, the golf games, because I do play a little bit of the golf games
yeah,
as well, and they're even more realistic.
right. That's
I
crazy.
mean, yeah. So
Well, that's kind of what led me. Like, I loved playing the MLB the Show, except I just found that as little as I was playing it, I wasn't able to really, catch up or be as good as I used to be. And the complexity of the game just became so much where, because I'm not playing it that much, I kind of kept it simple, what old school mentalities and controls like I did, when I was 18, and it just kind of like overwhelmed me to some degree where I just wasn't enjoying it as much. So it actually kind of led me into OOTP, where it's really what I mostly wanted to do anyway, was control the team and not necessarily swing and pitch.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Well, and that's kind of what led me to it because I tried playing some of these games online, and everybody's so dang good. They're just so
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
And it really is not fun when you're getting your ass thumped,
It it
15-1 in a 3 inning game or something.
it is
Uh,
not. It is not.
and I think that's kind of what led me as well, maybe over to OTB. I'd played it in the past, and actually, first I think got started with the franchise hockey
Okay.
end of out of the park.
Yeah.
So
How'd you like that?
a lot harder, and it's
Okay.
mainly because I don't know how the hockey teams work as much as baseball.
Gotcha. Right, right, right. Okay. Do you find that I've never played it? Do you find that the system is as good as OTP baseball, or is it something lacking a little bit, or
I think first glance, I'd say it's probably better,
oh wow,
but I
okay.
say, but I say that because I don't know how
Yeah,
all the things work. Whereas with baseball, we're all acutely aware of,
yeah,
how the AI controls some of the money issues here
makes
and
sense.
that kind of stuff. And it may not be the same way in hockey. I don't know.
Yeah, I got
So
you.
that's why I would say it's. But I know people complain about them all and all, and I'd say, hey man, let's just go back to the Stratomatic days and just
Right.
remember us rolling dice. So this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this has got
Yeah, that's funny. I just got a game this year. I guess it was after Christmas, I believe, but it's a card game I found. Man, how did I show I don't know if you follow like fantasy stuff, but fantasy baseball, but Eno Saris is a writer for Athletic, and he does a lot of pitching stuff, and he shared something on, I think it was his Twitter. It was a baseball card game that was created recently, and I bought it to play with my kid, but basically each card kind of has like that Stratomatic kind of aspect where there's like different, I guess it's not even just Stratomatic. It's also almost like the role playing games where like each pitcher or batter has a certain number associated with them,
it.
control or hit or power or speed. And so I don't know. I don't know how to explain outside of it's kind of like a game of war mixed with baseball, and it's
Wow.
kind of interesting. I'll try to find. I'm not doing the best. I've only played it 2 times, and it is kind of deep yet simple. And so since I was playing with my son, it was kind of on me to balance between making it fun for him while I'm still trying to learn the game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so but I found it pretty neat and cool. But yeah, I need to dig back in, but I'll share it with you.
I'll
I
have to
thought,
look at that. And
yeah,
that reminds me when you start seeing a card game, and this could be showing my age here. As a baseball card collector, if you went back to the 76 Tops cards and you flipped them over, on the side, it had, strikeout or ground out, home run, single, anything like that. And that whole series in '76, you could flip them over, and I can't tell you how many scorebooks I went through with the players, and you turn them over just kind of like you're playing Uno or something.
That's pretty cool.
And
I didn't know that.
and I would do that forever and ever, like that. Still have some of them. They're not in the best shape anymore because I played with them. Boy, I played with that set.
Which is what they're meant to do, originally.
Exactly.
Then the collecting thing came in, and then obviously the that whole market crashed, which is a shame. I spent most of my childhood collecting baseball cards, and my dad still teases me, not as much as he used to this day, because I was telling him I'm going to buy a Lamborghini with my collection at one point. So he always asks how my Lamborghini's doing.
Well, my wife kids me. I still own 4 Wayne Gretzky rookies.
Nice.
Now, I should have sold them
right
in 2000, 2001 when the market was high. Those things were going for crazy money.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just like to keep them. Got them in the thick old lucite, this type of thing.
Yep.
And I don't think they're worth but about a third of what they were back then, like $300 or $400 a card. But they had been over 1,000 at a point, and she's always like, "You should have sold it." So I tried to take one out of the lucite and pulled the front off of it. So I don't try to open up the lucite anymore.
Yeah, that's awful. Well, I don't know if I told this story on here, probably not, but I had a Mario Lemieux rookie card, and we were in 6th grade, and our routine was we bring our cards in, and we had the desks with the opening in the middle. And we would trade as much as we could in class, but then lunchtime we would trade, and then on the bus home we trade, and then we'd hang out after school, and after our sports, whatever game we were playing, we trade, or rainy days we would trade. So that was basically our routine. However, in 6th grade, Craig, who is our Boston GM, he and another kid were teasing me with the Mario Lemieux card, but then took the tease and actually made it into action where they ripped the card in half. And I think it was an accident, as in terms of, I think maybe, one of them, like Craig, didn't necessarily have that intention, but the other kid did. And so, yeah, ripped it right in half. And I tease Craig to this day, like how he owes me whatever that value is. But
wow, yeah. Holy cow! Now I might have even at that age, I might have cried when I saw something like that. Oh my God!
I wasn't too happy, but yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Now, strangely enough, growing up, of course, when you always want to collect your favorite players of all, is who's who you collect. And I've 100%. Always been a Davey Concepcion fan.
Okay.
So I own thousands of Davey Concepcion cards all through the years with autographs, and when they started putting bat slivers in it, and part of the jerseys and all that kind of thing.
That's great.
And Patty, my wife, she often tell me, she goes, if you could just sell some of these cards, we could probably buy a new car.
Right.
And I said, no, Dave Concepcion, you ain't, unless he happened to get in the Hall of Fame like he should be already.
Yeah.
I said, you could add all these up and it might buy us a couple of gallons of gas.
There you go. Buy a Lego car. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I the same way. I in the past couple of years, I've been dishing off a lot of the cards to my son as we actually just kind of occurred recently where we're purging our storage closets. I pull the cards out. My son gets excited. I give him a bunch, and I see in there, I have a whole case full of Ruben Sierra cards, for some reason I really liked him. Will Clark was kind of my guy. So I had a ton of Will Clark cards. David Robinson in basketball. And so it's neat fun, especially when you went to the card shows, you would find all these rare, rare is not the best word, but kind of odd cards. They weren't made by the main, Topps or Donruss or Fleer. They're kind of these off the path cards with even nothing on the back or something weird on the back, just David Robinson and then some type of title, the Admiral, and the front was a cartoon or something else, so I have thousands of those type of cards between all the players, and just enjoyed going to card collecting shows and gathering those things. I have no clue what they're worth, but my wife teases me a little bit because I haven't handed everything over to my son, and it's only because I tease him, and all that's the best word, but kind of, rib him a little bit about, like, I watch how he takes care of his cards, and there a lot of times are just thrown around. So I'm like, I don't mind giving him the cards, except if I'm going to hand over, these cards that, of course, they don't have as much value as they used to, but I don't want them just strewn into a milk crate, So
Exactly. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Right there. Well, and you were talking about the non-tops, non-upper deck,
mhm.
the Fleer, etc. Remember Hostess cupcakes? They had them in
Yes,
Hostess,
I do remember
and
that.
I've got several collections of those Hostess. I mean, they were hard to get.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
that's funny.
yeah, I love the Hostess ones, and probably my favorite one is I have. This is really a show of my age. RC Cola
Okay,
had cans that had baseball players on the back of them.
okay.
They did it for 1 year, and I collected the entire set and kept them, put them in a bag. Never thought at that age about rinsing them out, and
Whoa.
they got infested with ants.
Oh my goodness, that's
So I
funny.
had to get rid of them. But yeah, I think it was 175
Holy
cans.
wow. So what
Yeah,
did you have to do? Cut them out?
no, I grew up where I grew up in West Virginia. We had a shop out back,
Yeah,
and I just put them on the shelf. And then when it was time, we finally had to get rid of the shop because it was kind of falling down.
yeah, yeah.
So I just put it in a trash bag. Never thought about rinsing them. Never thought about them. But it was just it was a empty Coke can because I'm going to drink that RC Cola out
All
of it,
right. Yeah, yeah,
and just set it up there and had them across on shelves. Yeah.
That's great. You
So
had a whole ant village, I'm sure. That's crazy.
oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was not good. Was
That's
not
crazy.
good. So
So you grew up in West Virginia. Where are you guys
yes,
living now?
we live in Kernersville, North Carolina, which is exact halfway between Greensboro and Winston Salem.
Okay. All right. And how long you been there?
20 some years,
Okay. All right.
24 years,
You
something I
guys have
think.
seen ton of growth then. I know you guys down there.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, when we first moved here, you could actually move around in town. I think there was less than 15,000 people living here,
Yeah.
and now we're up close to 50,000.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That
so
whole
now
area.
we've moved instead of living quote unquote in town. Now we've moved out in the county, as we call it, and we're out in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't have to see anybody if I don't want to.
That's great.
Oh yes, exactly. And usually I don't want to.
Right.
So
It's been one of those places. I mean, obviously we're just one of thousands of thousands, but it's one of those places that when we consider, like, where could we live, that's tolerable with weather and things like that, and financially feasible. And that's why I think you guys have seen that influx. The Carolinas are one of those spots. And so yeah, we spent a decent amount of time in Raleigh. Um, you
beautiful
know,
town,
yeah,
gorgeous,
we really liked
love it.
it. We kind of was just a meeting point for us. But we spent a decent amount of time down there, and yeah, really enjoyed it. But
Yeah, North Carolina is gorgeous. If somebody would just take Charlotte, Charlotte
okay.
is
Not
just. I avoid it kind of like most people avoid Atlanta.
okay,
You know,
gotcha. Right.
yeah.
Is it the hecticness, the traffic combination?
The city was when the city started, it had plenty of infra, but it grew so fast
Mm,
that there was no way for the freeway system or the streets
yeah,
to keep up with it, and it's a horrible wreck. It's a clusterfuck.
that's a
I,
bummer.
yeah, uh, and everything is so fast. Just we've had an influx of Northerners who just want to
Yep.
go, and us down here, we're like, yeah, ain't no need to be moving
Right.
so fast, man. Come on. So,
That's
and
funny.
that's where Raleigh is a lot because Raleigh's kind of laid back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I felt
so
Charlotte was definitely just more of like a modern city that I would be used to, which is in the Northeast, and
yeah,
so as you said, like we do have. I think it's gotten better with the obviously the how the world's closed down in terms of globalization. So there's more travel and everyone's moving more frequently between places.
yeah,
So I think, like, that whole aspect of the southern people take it a little more slow, and the northern people are too fast and want it too quick. Rings true, but I think that everyone, like you said, kind of knows that a little bit. So when I go to Charlotte, it just feels like doesn't feel like a southern city,
Yeah.
and I assume part of that is just because it's a big banking city, and you draw that type of people in, and it's just all business.
It is.
Um,
It's a modern city,
yeah.
and I guess Raleigh is, but even the people, we still think of Raleigh as just a wide spot in the road.
Right.
I
Right. There you
mean,
go. Yeah.
and it's not. I know it's not, but
Yeah.
it still keeps that small town feel. Because I mean, I grew up in a town of 78 people. I
Wow.
mean
Wow.
that everybody truly knew everybody.
Yeah.
I graduated in high school with our graduating class was four.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
That's crazy.
I can truly say when something stays small town, I know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's insane. Wow. We graduated with 700. Yeah. Yeah. That,
Wow, my
that is small now.
my undergrad graduating class at Bryan College, where I played baseball, was only 119.
Right. Yeah. I
So
mean, that's really cool though. And it's an interesting way, totally for like, for my thinking, and there's like an appeal to that. Of course, like there's, the grass is always green on each side, I'm sure, but that's crazy. I know. I look at I was the oldest of four. I still am the oldest of four.
you
And
were.
in the household that I grew up in, and my two younger sisters, graduated about 9 years after me. And while I graduated with 700 kids, they graduated with about 1,100. And so that growth just went crazy. I mean, our area was mostly, I grew up in South Jersey, and our area was mostly South Philadelphia influx, moving out of the city into the suburbs. So I grew up in like Little Italy, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, um,
Well, and that is like my kids. They went to a middle school this year that had over 3,000 kids in a
wow.
middle
Yeah. Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
And the high schools here, we have three high schools in the area for our town. One of them is a what do you call it? Like I think it's a STEM. Is that what's called STEM
Okay.
school?
Yep. Yep.
And then the other two are just the public schools,
Yeah.
even though
Oh,
I
that's
know the
cool.
STEMs are public.
Yeah.
But the two public schools have over 10,000 students.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
I mean, it is unreal.
That's
And I said,
crazy.
you put that's half the population of
Yeah.
West
I
Virginia
was
in
gonna say,
total.
right. Yeah.
Charleston doesn't even have that many
Right.
people.
Yeah. That's crazy. So you're married. How many kids you have?
We have 14-year-old quadruplets and a
Oh,
7-year-old singleton.
wow. Okay. That's intense. That had to be crazy, crazy
It's
time for a stretch.
kept us busy and poor. Uh,
But only if you rinsed out those RC cans.
exactly, and somebody not tear up a Mario Lemieux card,
Yeah.
or sold a Wayne Gretzky card. Yeah,
Right. Oh man, that's
yeah.
crazy. Okay. All right. So yeah, you got a house full, and man, I'm sure stories. That's cool. So when you guys did the water park this week, is that a whole family venture? Everyone goes?
Oh yeah, everybody
Yeah.
went. We actually took three other people, just friends.
Okay.
So
Man.
yeah, they make it nice and cheap here because who would have thought the Wet and Wild was here
Right.
in Greensboro? But you can get season tickets for like $20 more than you pay for a single day ticket.
Oh, yeah, it's smart
So
then. Yeah.
everybody, all of our friends, they just get season tickets, and we generally go every Friday. But we went. It was so hot yesterday. We just went yesterday
Yeah,
too.
it's awesome. We got to rent a van to get your whole family there.
We do have a van, and it was full, but we had to take two cars with
Yeah,
all this.
I'll bet. Yeah.
So
That's great. That's cool, man. That's
yeah.
awesome. Do you mind if I ask what line of work are you in?
I work in healthcare data management.
Okay. All right. Hence why
My
you're able to
wife,
do it from home.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a nurse by trade, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
I've been a nurse since 1991,
Okay.
and my wife graduated nursing school in 1998, and that's how we met. And I worked as a floor nurse on a step down cardiac unit, meaning after they had procedures, we took care of them.
Yeah.
So we pulled what's called sheaths, big IVs out of their legs when they have procedures.
Okay.
And I got to just not like patients or families anymore. Decided to get into the the numbers part of it because it was getting big, the informatics end,
Yeah.
which, I thought was perfect because of my years growing up memorizing the back of baseball cards,
Yeah. Yeah.
with numbers and that type of thing. And it's just went from there to now we're getting ready to buy the business from the owner in December
Oh,
because she's
wow.
wanting
Okay.
to retire.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's great. Okay. So does that mean that you're not necessarily you, the, your particular job and title and business isn't run through the hospital? Like the
that is
hospital
correct.
doesn't
Yeah.
own it. Okay.
We're
Interesting.
a
Yeah.
third party contractor to hospitals
Okay.
and to some insurance companies because everybody's wanting data. Data
Yeah.
is the big, big data, big data. So
Yeah.
we do a lot of registry work with hospitals. We do a lot of just data mining for insurance companies and that type of thing.
Okay. And do you find that you have to be like a big numbers person to be into that, or is it something like coming from your past with like the nurse stuff? Like, how did that world? I mean, I get how the world collided in terms of like, you were over the people side of things, but like, were you already a numbers guy, or do you find that you have to be a numbers guy to do that, or do you kind of train yourself to be?
I think you can train yourself. We
Okay.
tell people it's not rocket science. It really
Gotcha.
isn't.
Yeah.
Um, you always have with all the different registries, you've got guidelines, you've got sets of definitions for every data field that you're looking for. It's very well laid out, kind of a plan that they have. You just have to, it's just mind numbingly boring.
Gotcha.
We literally, you're just looking at charts all day long.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't anymore because now I handle more of the making sure we have enough people to work it
Yeah.
and that type of thing because we employ 59 people.
Okay.
So
And
I,
are they all remote?
yes, yep,
Okay.
everybody's remote. I work with them from everywhere from Maine to several in Texas and a few in Washington.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
then, yeah, so they're
Okay.
all over.
That's cool. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're happier than what you're doing with the nurse stuff, but you have such a great like personality that I feel like your bedside manner would be something that patients would miss when you're not there. But I get the aspect, I think the public's the hardest part of any job. Like they're the blessing and the curse at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And I grew up in food service, and food service
Yeah.
the customer is always right. It
Yep.
doesn't matter.
It's a
And
hard job.
in healthcare, yeah. And surprisingly, my best friend who's uh went to nursing school with my wife, and he's now a doctor at WVU. He 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 and I are the ones that go to ball games and all the time together, and we're always like, working at Hardee's was the best job we ever had. Yeah, we got paid like $3 an hour, but my God, it was so fun.
Yeah. Yep.
And you didn't have that. But coming from that into the healthcare world where the patient is never right,
Right.
otherwise they wouldn't be there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was hard, but yeah, I love it. Don't get me wrong; it's boring, but I can go when I want to go, and I can,
That's
uh,
great.
a lot of the times though I spend 70 hours in front of the computer or talking to other abstractors for us and that type of thing, or hospitals. So but it's not hard. I could be digging ditches, and that's a whole lot worse.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and I always, that's why I always like to learn. I despise the question of what do you do, because I feel that it doesn't define the person, simply. And our culture has kind of made it like a basic introduction question.
Yeah.
And so, and there's other elements to it that I dislike, but I'm always curious because there's so many jobs and industries you wouldn't even know exist. And then I always like to see like where people, where their interests lie and what their talents are. And then, and just kind of how they tick, but then also the dynamics of, their working ability, like I know my job is so weird because I don't have like a typical schedule, and so that's a topic a lot of times when people ask what I do. It's, that spends a lot of time there, but like, I know that there is the data side of what you do, but I never really think about that. I always feel like it's just in the house, like a secretary doing the job.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it's
And
much.
and trust me, a lot of hospitals will try to do that, and it renders all the data useless because they don't know what they're doing.
Right. I gotcha.
They
Yeah.
don't, because what makes sense clinically doesn't always make sense from the data definition side.
Right.
So, but
Interesting.
ultimately, Jeff, I grew up playing music.
Yeah.
Once I
Okay.
got out of college, up until our quadruplets were born, I was a touring musician.
Oh, nice. That's great,
Yeah.
man. That's
So
awesome.
I work 3 days a week in the hospital
Yeah.
and the other 4 days a week on the road.
That's awesome. And multi instruments, one instrument in particular.
I was bass player
Okay, that's awesome,
with
man.
with
That's
that.
great.
So we played probably anywhere between 200 and 250 shows a year.
Wow, that's great. And what genre of music would you say?
The
Or who
the
would be
band
your
that
influences?
we got signed by Descent Records in 2001,
Okay.
and that was kind of a alternative metal, I guess.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was it was that Tool kind of
Yep.
groovy, but with a little bit of King's X thrown in there,
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
kind of thing. No, not saying that we could sing the harmonies King's X could,
Right.
but that, and then once that fell apart because the drummer and the singer just got tired of being on the road for no money, and I was
It's a
like,
hard life, man.
it is. I
Yeah.
I cannot. People say, "Oh, that must be great." I said, "No, we slept in vans
Yeah.
that smelled like stale beer and
Right.
sweat.
A bunch of guys, right? Yeah.
Sleeping on instrument cases."
Right.
And I tell them, I said, "You don't understand how many times we've had to gas and run or eat and run
Right.
because
Right.
you don't have it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I said, "No, it's glorious when you're in the Bon Jovi mobile,
Right.
but not when you're in the Ford
Yep.
Econoline."
Yeah.
So
That's funny. Yeah, I always, wanted to do that, love to do that. We would jam with friends. I always say like, I just, I just, made noise, just, but the whole point was just to hang out. And I like creating things, so it was
mhm.
always an aspect of, hey, let's see what we can come up with, and just jam and, have a couple of beers and smoke and just chill out. And that was our, that's what we did,
Yep.
so we would have the place I lived in with our Boston GM Craig. We had a little jam shed. It was a shed that most people probably used to put tools and lawnmowers in, but
Oh yeah, Palladium. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
we made it into like our little jam shed. And I think that's where I lost most of my hearing. But but yeah, I never made it to like the consistent band or touring space. So totally
Well,
jealous, but I
it
can see
it
how
it,
it's
it is hard because as if you don't have any, and then radio was still big, unlike now.
yeah,
And for us, because we recorded and released, you can still find us on Spotify.
yeah, it's awesome. What's the
And
band name?
the band name was Better Off Bound.
Okay, that's great,
And
man.
if when you listen to it, just remember we did these ourselves. We
Right,
had,
right,
we couldn't afford studio time, that
yeah,
$300 an hour or something.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we bought. I said, "Fuck! If the Beatles did things on a 4-track, that means I should be able to
Yeah,
do it on
right.
a 4-track."
Yeah,
So we bought a 4-track machine and learned how to slave them together and mix things down to, and bust it over to other tracks to get more tracks on there, and that's how we did it. And and I think we sold about 3,000 copies.
that's great,
So
man. That's
overall,
awesome.
not bad. I still get a nice little royalty check every 6 months or so from Spotify and
That's awesome.
iTunes, from BMI, from where it gets streamed every
Yeah,
now and
yeah.
then.
That's
Yeah.
awesome,
So,
man. That's so cool. Well,
but
hopefully,
strange to think of my life now, and that's what I was doing then. It's
yeah,
like, wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you ever get a chance to pull out the bass and fiddle around a little bit?
Oh yeah, my oldest son has got the bug,
Okay,
uh,
great, man.
and
Great.
he's already a better guitarist than I am,
Yeah,
but not a better bassist.
right. I got you.
Um,
Yeah,
and our guitar player, who I've played with my whole life here, um, he and I still get together and jam every
it's
now and
great,
then. But
man.
we've often said our next job is going to be roadieing for our kids.
Right,
So
right.
that's what we're looking forward
There you
to.
go. That's awesome, man. I think I remember seeing in Slack, you dig like the Grateful Dead and bands in that genre. Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing. I couldn't.
Widespread Panic's my favorite band of all
Gotcha.
time.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I did.
yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on because I do want to spend time, not only with you but also your team. But I spent time doing music promotion. My parents my mom and my aunt had a record store, and so I helped run that through my college years, and then through that experience, I got kind of pulled or recruited or whatever into a music promotion job where basically the simple gist of it is the record labels hire the music promoters to get them onto the radio, because music promoters have a relationship where they talk to the radio stations each week at least, and so it's our job to get on whatever artists are coming out. Sometimes it's established artists. Like in our case, we did AAA music. So, at that time in the, God, what was that? I guess like late 90s, yeah, early 2000s. So most of the genre was things like, and I hate most of this music, and it actually made me rip off every antenna of every car I had, and I barely listen to the radio to this day. But then that time we were responsible for breaking bands like Matchbox 20 and Third Eye Blind and Natalie and Bruglia and all that kind of crap. And then, but still, a lot of the labels did have established artists. Like when Radiohead OK Computer came out, we were able to promote that. They were already, somewhat established by that point. Eric Clapton puts a new album out, we promote that. So basically, it's whatever label, in that case, like Capitol Records, we were able to just kind of push them. So for us, like down here in PA, it would be XPN would be the main station. So a lot of times it's kind of that AAA / college kind of radio station, or it depends. Like we would also do like some of the bigger rock stations too, but I just ended up despising it. I thought I would love it, and I just hated it because I saw how much that it was a pay for play, even though it's illegal.
Oh yeah.
It still is. They still do it. It's just a different way of doing it. So I would watch bands like Matchbox 20 get popular, because Rob Thomas is handsome dude and he's easily marketable. You can put him on front of magazines and all those things, but their music blows. But we would promote them, and I wouldn't do this, but my boss would do this. Would basically talk to the music promoter. I'm sorry, the radio station manager. And they're like, yeah, that's okay. Well, what if we give you $5,000 towards your barbecue that's coming up? Okay, yeah, we'll play it 30 times a day. Whereas like the true, really good bands, maybe the guys is heavy set and a big beard and isn't as marketable. Music's way better. They would come in and ask how their record's doing. And it's like, yeah, not so good because you can't. What can you say? You're not handsome.
Yeah. Well, and you go back to that. Christopher Cross is the perfect example. The guy could sing. Sailing may not be your genre music, but MTV killed him because he was ugly.
Yeah.
He was fat, he was balding, and and he wasn't John Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing. Yeah.
It's crazy. So, I mean, I'm not that I'm huge into music. I do respect his particular playing, but I was always surprised that Blues Traveler made it as big as they did, because he's just, he's everything that would not typically be, the lead guy. I mean, of course he does something that's really unique and interesting, but anyway,
one of my best friends here is great friends with him. Grew up with him.
That's awesome.
And they were part of that jam band scene.
Yep.
And I've got a lot of bootlegs of where Paul's recorded it from just on the stage
hanging out there
with a boombox.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I love Blues Travel. Not love, that's the wrong word. I like to listen to them. They're much better to listen to than anything that's out on the radio today.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's like I still am a huge music fan, but I've you had to find different ways to intake it, so as I got older, it's a little harder. I don't read as many magazines. There's not even as many magazines around. But I used to love the liner notes and finding out which bands are thanked, and of course you find other bands on tour and things like that. So as much as like the convenience of Spotify or any streaming service is, I feel like it actually puts you more in a rut rather than going into a record store. And I really do miss that. That was one of my main hobbies, is going into the record stores.
To be able to go in and hold an LP, and flip it over, and the smell. You remember the smell,
the artwork. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I was a Kiss fan. I grew up a Kiss fan.
Okay.
So man, you opened up their albums and shit was just falling out. They were sending all kinds of stuff with it. And you, when we moved to cassette, loved the cassette because it was portable in your car.
Yeah.
But you generally bought a cassette and an LP so you could play the LP at home.
Right.
And when it went to CDs, that's kind of but now that with the stream, there's nothing to hold.
Yep.
You carry your phone. What do you look at? How do you read there's no, like I say, no liner notes, and who did they thank or who did they piss off and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Or going to the record store, talking to the person, who's there, so I got so many good, kind of paths of direction to, listen to music or in-store playing, but yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was saying earlier, we've been purging our house and our storage closets here. And I just pulled out, 4 gigantic totes of CDs, and I still have a a 400 and a 200 disc player that I used to, in the older days, used to link up and play together, and they just loop them. So I still have those too. So I was telling my wife, like, I would love to pull those out, link those together, put them in one of our rooms, and put a bunch of the CDs in there and just let it be. Because a lot of those CDs, like you were saying, whether it's bootlegs or just stuff that you can't get on streaming services,
Oh yeah.
I don't listen to anymore because that's the only way I can access them. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm going to turn the computer a little bit here
yeah,
so you
yeah.
can. I'm gonna
Okay, yep, yep. There you go. You got the wall. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. You
one
still have something to
band.
play it in?
Yeah, the car.
Right. Well, that's lucky, man. Because I was just saying, like, we just hit that point where neither of our cars have a CD player, and it's like, we used to at least. I mean, we saw the decline of I call them record stores, but yeah, but CD sales for
Record.
years, and that's
Yeah.
why my family business, got out of it because it was just declining service. But as soon as the cars stopped putting it in the
It's
CD players
over.
in the car, yeah, it's done. We
Yeah.
stopped buying CDs because we had no place to put them, play them.
Yeah. Well, I get a lot of, like I said, Widespread Panic's my favorite band, and there's a site on uh, the internet called Panic Stream where
Okay,
people have put every live show known, kind of like archive.org with the Grateful Dead.
gotcha.
Um,
Okay,
and so I record those and put them on CD because you never know when when that'll go bye bye.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I literally probably have what I showed you about 3,000 live shows.
Okay, all right, that's cool.
Um,
That's
and
great.
my wife is like, "What the hell are
Right.
you record? You That's the same song." I said, "No." I said, "Spring in '97 so much different than the fall of
Yeah.
'96." And she's like, "Oh my God, you're
Yeah, compare
stupid."
them to a pair of shoes. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So
That's great, man.
indeed.
That's awesome. Well, dude, this is great, man. Let's dig into some OTP because otherwise we'll keep going down these rabbit holes.
Exactly. It's a
Super,
wormhole we'll never get
yeah,
out of.
I love it though. Super enjoying it. So I think you and I linked up maybe through Facebook, or I can't remember, but something. And I'm not really ever on Facebook, so it was just a weird timing. But I think it was COVID the first league you joined.
Yes, it was.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Cool. That's awesome.
And you've led me down even a different rabbit hole with
All
I
right.
can't get enough of the online play now.
Right. Well, I apologize. I kind of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll tell my wife you said so. She may have something else to tell you.
Right.
Not suitable for work.
She'll send you packing with the 3,000 live shows. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right up
Exactly.
to me. So
Yeah.
now you're in what, 4 or 5 leagues?
12.
Woo, man. All right.
Yeah.
Then I
Yeah.
do apologize.
Yeah. It's what it started out, and what started out is like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I got to that point where I couldn't say no when I'd see a new interesting, like it's
Yeah.
a '90s league or
Yeah.
something. And I've had to learn to say no.
Trimmed. Yeah,
So
yeah, it's hard. I got to that point, and I, as much as there's some appealing things out there, I'm like, I can barely stick with what I have, and so especially being a commissioner in 3 leagues,
ugh,
that part's tricky, but it's tricky. Sorry. So I led you to the water, and then instead of just taking the sip, you just dove right the fuck
I
in.
just do. Yeah, I dove in. Yeah, I dove in. If
That's
I
great.
could get it down to just like COVID, FLG, MVP,
Yeah.
backflip, and LGS,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be good.
Yeah.
Though,
Yeah.
but the other ones I just feel like if I leave, will anybody? Because it's always hard, as you know, as a commissioner, getting people to
To
take
get
place.
people.
Take
Yeah.
take that up, and I feel bad if I'd leave them. So
It is hard.
I
I mean, I
keep
had
doing it.
this. Yeah, I don't know. Were you in the historical league that I think Anthony ran? I think he just called it
Yes,
HBL two.
yes,
I mean,
yep.
I was in that
HBL2.
league. Yeah, I was in that league from the beginning. I love that league. I love him as a commissioner, and seems like a super great person. It was really hard for me to pull out of that league, but I got to the point that you were saying because basically I knew that if I left, um, that it would probably be
All
a
apart.
domino effect. Yeah, because there was
Yeah.
there's a core people that would really be involved, and I tried to help Anthony kind of behind the scenes with like basic things, like just even recruiting for one,
Yeah.
but it got to the point where I was like, I can't feel bad about leaving this because it crumbling, and or and let it crumble because I'm just not, like, between time and my enjoyment and like where do I put my time, it just wasn't equaling up, and I knew I needed to loosen something up. So it's hard, but I think
It
sometimes they
is.
resolve itself. The leagues
I,
crumble
I was
themselves.
actually, and I hate it because I like the league. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
I was glad that, yeah, I think we went on after you left. I think we went on one more season,
Yeah,
and then it just folded. And
yeah,
and I was, instantly I was like, I've got to find something to replace this.
Right.
And
Right.
I said, wait a second. So I was kind of glad, that it did. I know that sounds bad, but
I get what you're
because
saying.
well,
Right.
man, I was spending 3 4 hours a day just trying to learn to do this right,
Yeah.
and it's all a learning process every day. So
100%. Yeah. Well, and sometimes that, like when the decision's made for you, you don't feel as bad. So,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So
So
I got several other ones teetering on
I
the
gotcha.
brink of, is it going
Yeah.
to stay or is it going to go?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And do you have
yeah.
a preference? Like, let's say all things are equal, right? You're in no leagues, you can join one. Do you have a preference? Do you like historical leagues, modern leagues, fictional leagues? Like, any preference in there?
Uh, I think that now I would probably prefer fictional.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I used to play on a site online called Sim Dynasty
Okay.
that was all fictional because it's too easy with historical and current to, like, say I'm the Braves and I see Ronald Acuna Jr. and I see him hitting, 21 home runs and stealing 40 bases before the All-Star break,
Right.
but in OTPs hitting 212.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
Uh,
Gotcha.
that's too hard. So sometimes, but to get in, it was good to have some players that I knew.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because at first when these leagues like COVID and MVP and bat flip, when those leagues started to lose players that are current, we're just hanging on in COVID here. We got Tatis still and Jordan Alvarez and some of those guys. But when it got into like some fictional players, it took me a little bit to kind of appreciate or get into it. But really it's just a name change, like you're basically just looking at a different talent pool, and no different from when rookies come up in baseball. I mean, all the rookies that came up in baseball this year, and it seems like that trend will continue to occur in MLB. It alters the landscape, and you just have to learn new names, basically.
well, and I have I'm trying to make myself not look at the names and look at the numbers.
Right, 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 right.
That's from talking, because I've spent a couple of conversations on Slack with um, Mac. I think it's Mac the Diamondbacks.
Yep,
Is that
yep, yep,
yeah?
yeah. I know
And
he's done it for years.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he has been incredible. Is it Mac or Mike, whoever it is? And if you're listening, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you credit because I'm bad with names.
Oh,
Uh,
from COVID League, Mike. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I think it's Mike, and
yeah.
he was like, look at this, and kind of directed me on how, because I was looking at names. Like I
Yep.
would see, even I'm in one of these where we rebirth, we it's fictional, but we rebirth heroes. So like Luke Appling came up.
Okay.
I was like, he's a Hall of Famer, right?
Right. Gotcha.
I'm gonna be, I'm grabbing him, but he sucks.
Right.
He
Right. Right. Right.
sucks.
Yeah.
And so I've had to start looking at it from a numbers perspective
one Hundred
as
percent.
opposed to a name.
Yeah, that's kind of where I try to explain, like people that don't know anything about sim games or OTP. And I was there not that long ago, right? It was the pandemic that really pushed me further into it. But like I had to learn that exactly what you just said, because playing solo, I still had that mentality of like, well, whatever, Barry Bonds or Mike Trout they're
Yep.
going to be great. But I try to explain to, like, again, like someone like my wife's friend or something, and explain, like trying to explain what it is, where it's just like, yeah, you might have Mike Trout in this game, and 98 out of 100 times he's Mike Trout, but 2 times out of those particular worlds he is
Mario Mendoza.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it is,
Yeah.
you're right. It is just an aspect of like you got to look at the tools and the player, and not the name necessarily.
Yeah.
So we were digging when we were chatting a little bit, kind of trying to set this up. We were talking a little bit about what we wanted to chat about, and if there's anything off limits and blah blah blah. And one of the things you had mentioned was digging into your player development, right?
Yep.
And how to get better at that. And Mike, from Arizona, he's a wealth of knowledge, and he's really good at this in every league. I would say that probably average, whereas some people definitely do this incredibly. But I think that my take on it is that it's not an exact science. I think that there are elements that you can do that will help it, but of course, because it's a world that has randomness to it, it doesn't mean just because you do it you're going to get every first round pick as a superstar.
Right.
But a couple things that like just kind of glance, and I'll if you don't mind, I'll look at your team,
Yep.
and we'll look at mine. But
Yep.
I always one thing that I consistently do is to the right here we have the scouting budget and development budget.
Uh-huh.
I would say that development budget is crazy key in that, right? So and of course finances dictate it. And so like, it's hard. Marlins are a hard team, as is like Cleveland or teams like that compared to if you're the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees.
Right.
So your budget is such a bigger concern. And as you see, your budget's 23rd, your payroll's 20th there, right? You don't have a ton of money to wiggle around. It is crazy watching like this. I've never seen this before. It's really interesting. We have the ginormous market. You have New York Yankees market size, New York Yankees level, and then you have the Marlins fan interest. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, level. It's so weird. Usually this would be pumped up too. It's crazy. I'm curious to see
And
how they got
I
there.
think that I think last year, because I kind of made a little, or maybe the season before, I made a little run, and I had gotten that up to the 80s.
Okay. Okay.
But when they didn't make the playoffs, it backed off.
And did you see
Um,
trading some of those players did the same too? Like
oh
certain
yeah,
players? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Some of them I just couldn't. This has really made me realize, as much as I think I would like to be a GM in real baseball,
yeah,
and how hard,
yeah.
because
100%. You're balancing all those
every
things.
move dictates something else
Yep, yep,
and has its fingers wrapped around it, and money's finite,
yeah.
and you can't pay, you know any team's going to sign Shohei right now is going to have Shohei, and that's
Right,
it,
right,
because it's
right,
going
right.
to be $800 million, and that's what it's going to
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, well,
So,
like you're saying, like that's where it is hard, and you definitely have to take away the names and sometimes your
oh yeah,
your attachment to the player because and you see why teams in real MLB will trade a guy, a year before he's a free agent, because he's going to get more value and
mm-hmm.
for your team. But you have to deal with the backlash of the fans. You have to deal with losing, but as far as like, and that's kind of what I love about this game. And I've been trying to teach I guess my friend Craig, Boston GM, how like it's not just about your not just about your MLB team, it's about your plan for the future.
Nice.
So, you might
Yeah,
have to have like a 1 year stopgap at shortstop, that maybe can't hit worth a lick, but your shortstop is in AAA or AA, and
yeah.
you're really hoping he develops properly, and that
And
part
I
is
don't
key.
know how long, because I can't remember how long Craig said he'd been playing this,
Just
and that was
recently.
hard for me,
Yeah.
because um, to start looking to the future, and being able to mentally, and I take this to heart, because like I said, you get attached to these players even if they're fictional,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my gosh, he's been so good for the franchise. I've got to keep him, because he's got to retire as a Marlin and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
Can't do it.
You can't
Yeah.
do that now.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely
So,
have to make it where it's a
oh, my big
consistent
signing.
Bolton. Yeah, yeah. I really your top couple here are really solid. Um, but real quick, but going back into the player development, I was just glancing here because I was just seeing like what prospects you kind of have in line. You have a couple guys like in rookie ball here. Jake Bingham looks like he was picked in second round, 34. And again, I'm just going by overall, so there's probably better guys that might have better tools in here. But yeah, number one, 61st prospect overall, Tony Samino, a high A ball.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, it looks like a solid third baseman there. But yeah, definitely not to be rude, but definitely kind of light in your minors there.
Light is not even the word.
I do like this dude internationally, Rodolfo Lomo. But I would say, like, if I were you, and again, this is where you're saying it's finite and you got to juggle something, and I can't do it this second. But I always tend to boost this as high as you can afford to do it, and that's tricky for every team. Because you want money for free agents and extensions and things like that. And this is where like a couple guys in our league, but you mentioned Mike from Arizona. He's really good at making sure that this is maxed out. I'll show you my team really quick, just how it's set
Now,
up.
Jeff, do you
Yeah.
find that your scouting budget needs to be the same as your development?
Not at all. Yeah, and this is where I will differ from guys like from guys like Mike and other players. I generally have my scouting budget lower than probably a lot of the better teams. And my philosophy behind that, and I don't know if this is right, it's just my philosophy, that I know the scouting budget will it will handle all these things, right? So there's a
Uh-huh.
percentage, 24% of your scouting budget will do MLB and a minor league and amateur. And you can obviously play with these, however you want.
Right.
And I fiddle with those a little bit. But is this my scout? Yeah, it's my scout. um, I I
You
will
can give
have
him to me if you want.
I feel um that they're going to do a lot of their job naturally, which is what the scouting budget's for. And then the specific things that we want to scout for, that like if I'm, rookie free agency, or I'm sorry, rookie draft, or free agencies coming up, or, talking to a team about a trade. When you want to go in and specifically have those guys scouted, I feel that the if being that I have mine lower, and I'll go to my team really quick, um, being that I have mine lower compared to a lot of teams, I will
Oh,
it will take longer for my scout to accomplish the tasks. So compared to, I don't think he's going to mind. Let me just go to like, let's say Rich, because he's been on here before. So
yeah.
yeah, see his scouting and development.
Wow. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
So you can see the difference between us, where he's got ton loaded in there, and he's got a lot of money. He's third budget overall. I'm I'm not as good with that kind of stuff. So I mean, I'm sixth. Yeah, I can't complain. My owner's not cheap. Um, but but I only devote 10,000 10 million to it, and I could do more. But my philosophy is kind of exactly what I just said. And then I try to load as much as I can into development. And then thinking behind that is that that's definitely one tool that will help promote like the development of those minor league players. And then the second part of it is inside the
Coach.
personnel, you know. And so when I'm shopping for a new coach, like let's say like this dude down here, this hitting coach in rookie ball, Adam Blade, he is he I try to look at things where his reputation is poor, and I don't know if it got that way recently or if it started that way. I can't remember. I usually don't try to hire guys that have a poor reputation, but I don't mind inexperience or average or whatever that's not great. But I try to look at especially in the lower ball, rookie ball and things like that. Is he handle development good? These type of things more so
Right.
than if he's amazing at something. If he is, it's great too. Like let me still stay in the low ball. Like hitting coach and rookie Rick Noel. Like he
He's
it's weird
poor.
because yeah, he's poor in pretty much everything, except at least he's good at hitting
Hitting.
and his
His hitting is
development's average. And I'm picking these guys because like they're not like, they don't say they're amazing. So
right.
whereas let's say
Well,
like
and that was mine because I wondered how much the reputation true. Like I have a lot of guys that have a poor reputation, but if they're my hitting coach, they're legendary and handle aging. Because at lower levels, I knew aging is going to be a huge thing, and mechanics.
yeah,
And I try and at least trying to get all of my minor league system for each club under my same, am I saber met? Am I wanting on base percentage? Am I wanting hits, home runs?
yeah,
Trying to
finesse
have it follow
pitchers,
all the
power
way through.
pitchers.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
Man.
try to do some of that as well. Though I like sometimes I don't, like for example in my major leagues I definitely care about the coach's personalities mixing well,
Yeah,
right?
because they get fighting.
They
Yeah.
do, right? Yeah, so I do care
Yeah.
about that. In my minor leagues I don't, like whatever kind of happens happens. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like this guy, which is my manager for the AZL rookie league ball, reputation's poor, but as you said, like he handles development good,
Good with
influence
ages.
mechanics outstanding, handles aging good. And then he's decent in these categories. And I also try to look at at least my minor leagues. Do they favor veterans or prospects? And that's only
Yeah.
something I've been kind of doing recently. Whereas I'm like, you know what? If these guys really favor veterans, maybe they're being dicks to the prospects. And
Yeah.
I don't know how
Exactly.
much that plays out, but I try to focus on that a little bit. And then my upper guys have been pretty solid. Like my pitching coach here in Double A ball, Josh Conway. I'm sorry, Triple A. Outstanding mechanics, handles development good, handles aging good, teaches pitches excellent. So he's been pretty solid. But yeah, so I mean, really, and in major leagues, I don't worry about the development as much because they're already there.
Right.
And not that they still can't develop, and I still want guys like I still want guys that can work with that a little bit, but I definitely find like the double A and higher, I try to focus on. It doesn't mean that I ignore the rookie ball. I just these guys get promoted, I feel quicker.
Well,
um
and I have found that the ones that are excellent at things, I would try to sign them when I have something come up. And I've actually started learning. Sometimes you just cut the loss and get rid of the coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in my lower minor system, I need teachers.
Yeah.
They're kids, little
Right.
kids,
Right. Right. Right.
and they wouldn't sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could even jack up the price to astronomical, and they have no interest in going to single A Lenoria
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I try, like I say, I just try to get the best that will sign there, and then all the good ones will sign major league. But like I say, the development is kind of done.
Yep.
And then I started, because in MVP, boy, I had the Giant staff. They were just, everybody was fighting with each other. That's why
Yeah.
we lost like 29 in a row.
Right. Right. Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And so here you're not unhappy. I love the fact that you have, your teaching roles like really high. And then, and so I try to look at this too, right? Where let's say when you do the works well with or struggles with the staff cohesion, if a guy is, let's say, like your third base coach, Emilio King, if he is zero positives with work well, but -2 with struggles, I
yeah,
will look to see like, all right, when's his contract up?
yeah,
So he's done this year, right?
yeah.
Looks like, yeah.
Should be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard though because you do, like you said, you have all these outstanding elements to him. He teaches defense outstanding and outfield outstanding.
just can't
So
get along with anybody.
yeah, it doesn't get along anymore. But maybe he's not the maybe he's not the main one. Like maybe you could keep him and balance out like of course I'm just taking stabs here. It looks like he's new too, and he's got some great skills too. But yeah, you might have to replace a guy like that just to get happy. It's hard. It's a hard balance, man.
It's hard.
You know.
It is. And when I first started with this and the Giants, you first brought me into all this world, I didn't even look at that. I was just like, I've just got to put a good hit. That was my focus,
Yeah.
good hitting team. And now I'm realizing, man, it's about defense. I need
Yeah,
defense.
it is about defense. Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out too,
Uh,
especially in
oh,
the key
yeah.
spots. But yeah, just so we don't veer away from it so much. And I think that it's hard because as you start winning, you'll get more money, and of course you'll get other things. But if there's ability to shed any of these players in trades, and of course you have to balance that with your winning. You're in second place, so I mean,
Yeah.
you don't really want to get rid of those guys at the moment. But yeah, I mean, the fan loyalty and budget and all that stuff should pop up. And then I would just keep dumping money into development each year. Even if you just did, as hard as it is, even if you added like $1 million each year, the 1 year, I guess it was recently, I guess it was like I had two deep playoff runs in a row where I ended up
Mm-hmm.
just with a bunch of extra money. And I didn't really, even though I have like some high price guys here, like Royce Lewis and Tatis and these guys, it ended up being like I have a lot of my really good players like really making nothing. Like my best player is this Julio Navarro, and he's not even making $1 million yet. Now he'll make 8 million next year. And he's projected to make a lot more, but you kind of get into that range where you're just kind of lucky that they still didn't hit arbitration.
Yeah.
But
Now, when speaking of, if you go to Navarro there, look, 4 years down the road, he's at 20 million in arbitration.
yeah.
Do you ever think about signing him, trying to lock him up and buy out those, at something cheaper? Do you go
100%.
that
Yeah.
route, or?
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's a funny topic because we were just talking about this in bat flip, but we do have like a league rule, and it's something I actually considering just getting rid of, where they have to reach 3 years of major league service to extend them. Right. And so
Yeah.
one of the things I definitely do, and I'm sure Mike had mentioned this to you at some point, but rather than just letting them fight it out in arbitration court, when we get to arbitration, I always try to offer them the contract, even the 1 year deal, and
Yeah.
that boosts that fan interest, especially with a
Yeah.
player like this. And then when when I get to that 3 years, I'll see if I can offer him a contract, for more than multi-year, and just try to spread that out a little bit.
Gotcha.
But I was talking to Mike, like one of the things I've been considering is getting rid of that 3 year rule, because the purpose of that being put in place was basically because the AI has been so easy to trick. And it also wasn't as realistic with MLB. But I think both have improved, right? MLB changed where now they have a ton of those guys. You as a Braves fan know this. You got your whole team signed for $500,000 per year.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Bryce
And
Elder's contracts are probably about to be offered, and then so that's one thing that, I think that it's changed, and I think AI has gotten a lot better where they don't let you necessarily rip them off and make it as easy, with those early deals.
Well, and you've got people like Corbin Carroll, who's played now half of a year, and he's
Yeah.
already signed long term.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. The White
So,
Sox and the Braves, I think, really broke that,
yeah.
pretty popular. So I've been considering that, but yeah, I'm, I do try to sign those guys as early as I can. I mean, I do have some apprehensions, especially if a guy like, I love this guy's profile, but he's fragile and he's out right now for 5 weeks. So he's a guy that like I would probably, you know, really struggle with like how long term I want to sign him, or at some
I
point maybe
hate
see
that
if I can
word
trade him.
now, fragile. Ugh.
I know.
Ugh.
It's
Ugh.
do you have a lot of
Or
guys in
wrecked.
this
Or
or wrecked?
wrecked
Yeah,
even.
I got a
Yeah.
lot of those guys.
I
Yeah,
got a bunch. Yeah.
yeah. Let's take a look at your pitching staff really quick. So, I mean, you're doing well here. So you got Bolton as your ace, right? So Jonathan Bolton, 32 years old. Yeah, solid, man. And you just signed him this year, right? Or last year?
Yes.
Yeah, or this
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
This year. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's really solid. He played for Seattle before. Yeah, he's doing great. And then you have Ben Gibson, young guy. I like his profile too. Fourth
Yeah.
overall
He
pick.
was he was one of our draft picks. One
Yeah.
of the first ones I think that I was able to actually be involved in the draft
Nice.
big time.
Well,
So
it's paying off. Yeah, he's doing really well. And then your third starter here. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, I like these guys. I know you started getting a little bit more particular about like their personality, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you have some guys on the team, it's gonna happen. Then you have
Yeah.
to balance them out, right? So you get those captains and things like that. But yeah, I like this guy's profile as well. That was Robbie Canorio, Jose Rosales, your fourth start. Oh, I just took him out.
Oh,
Good thing is isn't the file we play off
the
of.
file. Well,
Yeah.
and if you look, Mr.
Wow.
Kincaid there, I should have traded him back when somebody was offering. I know that somebody had offered me something for him because when
He
we
took a
switched
big hit.
over, he
Oh,
took a holy, yeah. He was an 80
wow.
80. Now it's under 40s.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. Look at that. So that was at the change with the 24 to 20,
To the
22 to 23.
22, 23. Yep.
Wow. He dropped 30 points. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So we just had that happen, and we just switched over in one league, and I had, everyone has it happen and it's hard. I've been
Oh yeah.
considering like, so how I'm debating. I don't know if this makes sense. Someone was telling me in that league Spider Tack, and I do respect the GM with his OOTP knowledge. And that's why I was asking him, like, he knows more than I do. So, tell me what you think. But I had a guy, and I'll share it on our Slack. But I had a couple guys drop like first round picks, seventh overall. One guy was first overall, go from like high 60s, to like 48,
Uh,
and his response was that while the overall and potential have changed, that the tools, are
not.
closer to what they were going to be anyway,
Yeah.
and stayed. Now he looks like he took a big hit in all this stuff as well. So
Can you remember him? Because there was a lot of discussion about whether or not I was able to trade him, could have
right,
traded him. I didn't put him on the
I
block,
remember
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, and because at that time I was sucky.
God.
It was horrible. The Marlins were terrible, and I
Yeah.
just needed something to get something in my minor league system.
Yeah.
Uh,
He had
but yeah,
75
because I mean,
stuff.
for
He has
years he
45
was
now.
great. Didn't he? One year he went like 21-3 or something.
Yeah. He had 75 stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. He was 20-10. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah,
That's a big hit. But and so yeah, I mean that's the thing I don't fully grasp. I guess like the idea is that they've improved their their scouting, but it does stink when you have that much affected. So I
yeah,
haven't said this to anyone, but one thing I've been considering, I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know how much work it's going to be, and I don't know if it's going to fuck up the game system. But when we switch over as a commissioner, I totally expect a big backlash. Like I had these 5 guys drop off because I did it in the other league.
yeah.
And I
Oh
had
yeah.
5 guys gain. So it's a hard thing. You got to kind of count all those chickens first, but I don't know if it makes sense where maybe we each team gets 3-ish players that, like, if they really took a big hit, maybe I can edit them back closer to where they were, so it stops like some squash of like that change. But I don't know if it will change it eventually anyway.
Well, and that's when you start changing individually like that, it makes you wonder what reaction will the other ratings for other players have?
Right,
I mean,
right,
because
right, right,
it's all entangled.
right. You're true.
Um,
That's true. Yeah.
so yeah, I've got 4 leagues now in 24, and I've had them take it, and I've had some get better, and just I keep telling it's a game. Just roll with it.
Yeah,
it
exactly. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a game.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, I've moved Kincaid from my ace #1
Yeah.
to sometimes
Whew.
he's out of the bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I get it. Wow, that's
but
crazy, man. And
yeah,
then
but
I
he
like,
gets pissed when he's in the bullpen.
I'm
His
sure he
his
does.
morale goes through the
I'm sure.
floor.
I'm sure.
So
I do like this. Your long relief emergency starter, the Rick Trito. I mean,
Trito,
it's some money. There are some the movement and control has some left to be desired, but
yes,
I like a lot of the other elements. Ground ball pitcher, 97, 99. Great stamina. Three really solid pitches, good stuff. But yeah, it's
yeah.
interesting. So
And he was one that was he and Kincaid kind of go back and forth with the starter
gotcha.
in
Right,
that
makes
fifth
sense. Yeah,
hole. And sometimes I'll run six. I'm
yeah.
not, I don't mind that whole six rotation to give arms a little rest. Cause I remember Kincaid, I sometimes had him throwing 130 pitches a night.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And
Did
so
you do pitch counts? Pitch counts?
I do pitch. I do. If you go into the individual strategy under each
Yeah.
player, I've learned now as I'm starting to finally look at how the live sims. I'm going with more of the batters faced
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
because
Okay.
when they start seeing their stuff that third time around, they're just getting gobsmacked, man. They're just getting
Gotcha.
killed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Makes sense, right? So you're doing that. You're doing that
I'm
sabermetrics aspect.
trying to,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Okay, that's interesting. Um, and then I saw your closer, man. He's a monster.
yeah.
Chris Bacon
And
here.
Chris from the Nationals had wanted and I had offered me, I forget who my closer was last year, but he got hurt uh, and had shoulder surgery and he wanted him. And I was like, dude, he's on the shelf for 12 more months. And he's like, I know, I know. So we worked it and he was an 80-80 guy as well, but he was a lot younger. He was only like 27.
Yeah,
So I went with it. This guy's been money in the bank for me.
yeah. No, I like his profile is great. Um,
The
and
only
so
thing
he's
I don't like about him, if you look at his low personality, that low work ethic just kills me.
yeah,
Just kills me.
yeah. I mean, but pardon me, it doesn't bother me as much with these older guys.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, it wouldn't affect me as much. I mean, if the things that annoy me at this age, being 31 as a free agent, is like his high greed, right? So that means
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and low loyalty. So he's going to
Yep.
want to test free agency, and he's going
Gonna
to
go.
want a ton of money,
Yep.
so those things bother me at 31. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can re-sign him, or depending where you are in the race, trade him, you get a decent something decent back. Now your pitching looks solid. I was just scrolling through your lineup really quick. Solid first baseman in Jake Weeks. He does the job. Gavin Lux. You signed him a couple years ago, right? Okay,
He's
gotcha.
he's been 4 or 5 years with the Marlins now,
Yeah,
if I'm not
okay.
mistaken.
So how
Yeah.
is he, man? See, he scares me a little bit with his fielding, right? So he's hurting me
Oh,
on
he
the
does.
fielding
Yeah.
size. Yeah. Do you have another option there? Like, let me see, Carter
Um,
Young for shortstop.
Carter Young could, but
Yeah.
he's actually a little better, but then I don't really have a shortstop.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and Carter Young's just bad because he can't hit himself out of a wet paper bag.
Right. Right. Right.
Uh,
Right.
yeah,
I
he
mean,
just
he looks like he could. I mean, I get he's not going to hit a home run, but looks like he's.
yeah.
Here's what I like about him. I like his contact's fine. I like
Yep.
that he's good eye and
Ran
good
it
avoid
over.
K. Yeah, he's got good speed. As far as
Yep.
like stealing bases. Yeah, his OBP should be way better than what it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
like like this is what I would expect at the 32. At 350. That's kind of where I
Yeah.
expect his OBP.
Yeah. Not 290.
Yeah, yeah, right, 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 exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then your third baseman, that's a tricky name,
Hey,
Fulamaki Montalegre.
that's I just Fumi. I was calling
Boom,
Fumi.
there you go, yeah, yeah, yeah. I like him as a third baseman. He's pretty solid. But
He's
yeah,
he's
I would
been
definitely.
okay. He had a long time in my minor system, long
Okay,
time.
okay,
Uh, or maybe he wasn't because there was another one that I had, and they were just starting to get too old. And when I lost somebody as a third baseman to free agency. I can't remember who, and I had to bring somebody up. So he's kind of been the one to do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he's solid. I see you. So, do you do daily lineups, or do you kind of let
I,
them?
I do them. No, I don't, and I
Yeah,
need
in
to.
12 leagues, it's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah,
but I do utilize that whole backup how often they play all the time.
Yeah, I see that.
If you
Yeah.
go in and look at my lineups, you'll see like a lot of them will be if they get tired because they're the starter. But like I don't ever have a catcher start until they're tired. At the most, they'll go 4 games.
Gotcha. Right,
Uh,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll always try to do that. Um, yeah, this guy he was Rule
Roland
5
Drama.
pickup was
Okay.
on the first year I played,
Yeah.
and he's just continually
Yeah, he's
been a
been pretty
good player
solid.
for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, to me, I'm surprised that like my concerns would be your I like this dude, but I want to play him at like second
second.
base or
Yeah,
third, and
yeah.
then I like Lux's bat, he's solid, but I want to like put him at first, or DH. I'm
Yeah,
surprised you've been having so much success with those guys. I mean, um, because that up the middle defense is so important.
is. Yeah. If you hit it to the right side of second base, you got to hit.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So like
And
it seems like that's your focus, like, coming into whatever free agency or trade deadline free agency. Castro isn't awful for you up there. I know he hasn't
no,
been
he's not looking at
great.
his age though.
Yeah, no, he's old, I know, but
He's old.
I guess is in terms of like you're in a position standing wise to, you're in a position to take this division. All right. Rich is too busy playing other video games. Hopefully he listens to this, and and he's taking a slide back. I think the Dodgers beating him demoralized him to the point he doesn't like OOTP anymore. I'm just going to go out there and limb. But no, you're one game back from the wild card. So
Yeah.
to me, if I'm you, I do everything that can win, everything I can do to win. And I get it's hard in your situation because, you don't want to piss Gavin Lux off, and, he's very popular and all that stuff. He's making a decent amount of money. But I almost wonder if I'm just ballparking thinking out loud here. So you got Tristan Cry, who's your DH, really good first base defense. Well,
Yeah.
better. I mean,
If I could only train one of them to play second or short
yeah,
and you're right, because Luck's defense kills me. But
yeah,
Weeks is a good defensive player, and
yeah.
Tristan Cry's got a great bat. It's like if I could just combine them into one player, I'd
Combine
be
those
much better
two.
off.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I got
That's
stuck
tricky.
signing Gavin Lux long term, and I really should. I got slack knee happy after he had a couple good years for me, and I was like, I'm going to sign him.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Yeah, that's tricky because he's like a tricky spot in there.
yeah.
So you have Dinsmore as your defensive backup. Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense. Um, at least he comes in and plays second. So yeah, I mean that's a tricky spot because yeah,
And I
I get
have it set up to where any kind of lead, it should be any kind of lead after the seventh inning, then my defensive subs come in.
yeah, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
eighth
eighth
plus.
inning.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Okay.
I've lost a lot of games because they hit the ball to Gavin Lux.
Right, 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 right. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, that's gonna be it. I'll see how that plays out. But now you look like you're in pretty good shape there. Um, and then I think it's just a matter of like replenishing the uh the farm system when you can. Looks like you're doing much better in drafts, like you said. When you finally start taking involvement in them more, you get the players you want.
It
It
is, and I
helps.
have finally started learning to uh, draft. I used to rely on just the OSA drafting,
Yeah, gotcha.
and
Okay.
and sometimes it was right, but sometimes it didn't fit what I needed.
Yeah.
So I'm getting better at like I say, it's a learning process the whole
Yeah.
way through
Yeah,
to
100%.
get that scout looking at who should I draft because I'm a firm believer in the draft upper rounds. You just take the best available,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
when you get into the lower rounds, that's when you start trying to fill in holes.
Yeah.
But just like the last with the MLB draft, why the hell the Detroit GM took Max Clark instead of Wyatt Langford? What
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
he should have been fired right then.
Right, right, right.
Uh, yeah, I'm sure he's got his reasons, and Clark's going to be a fine MLB player, but Wyatt Langford's going to be a star.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
him in Texas, I'm just like, son of a bitch, people, why'd y'all let him go there?
Yeah.
Like they need any help. So,
Yeah, well, it's good, it's great for them.
oh yeah,
They've been
yeah,
struggling with that team now. I love seeing them be relevant
finally,
again. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly,
Yeah, it's
indeed.
the draft is fun. I've taken a different path of that too because I used to early on. I definitely would balance between OSA and what my scout says. And I wasn't really scouting much, so I didn't have like great accuracy. So there'd be guys where I took that they would be average or low even. And then, so I was relying on OSA to at least give me like a baseline,
Yeah.
but it's just something that's so hard to trust.
Yeah.
And then, now I just kind of look at it as, like you said, I'll take the best player available. And just to give you an idea here, I think I was saying while we were drafting, I didn't take a pitcher. This guy that I took in the 5th round, this Jose Emberson, I actually took him to be a hitter, because if you look at his profile, let me see if it gives you a whole kit and caboodle here. If you actually look at his
Look at that.
his fielding range
Okay.
and his hitting, he is actually, and this OSA, let me see my scout. Yeah. So my scout has him at 65 contact and 55 gap and then 55 eye and 60, and then his infield and outfield, both ranges are pretty good. So anyway, so I have him, and his pitching sucks. His pitching's pretty bad.
But he
So
fields his position well.
yeah, he fields it well, right? Yeah. But I totally took him as like a 2nd or 3rd baseman, and then,
Yeah.
but I didn't take a pitcher until the 10th round. I just kept taking best player available. And I don't think my next pitcher after that was 17th round. And that's not my plan. It just so happened that what players fell and who was available. And so I always look at it as, at least if I take those players, then at least maybe they fall back, or I can trade them into pitchers later, if I
Well,
really
see, and
had
that's
to.
what I'm trying to get to, is let somebody else. I'm suck at developing pitching.
Yeah.
Develop hitters, I guess I'm better at. I don't know why, but it seems like and then trade. And I'm trying to get into the trade thing now, because that's hard for me to do, because I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
gotcha. Yeah.
and so I've not done a whole lot of trading. If I find somebody I trade with and it goes good for both of us, I'm a lot more apt to trade with them
100%.
again.
Yeah. Well, and I
But
think that's the key, right? You have a couple, doesn't matter if it's fantasy sports or this or whatever, in real life. Like if you have someone else that's trying to get you,
yeah,
then to me, that's just like the equivalent of, like I look at it in my job, like I always say, like, I'm not going to retire off one given job. So I'm trying to be fair, so
yeah,
like, but if you keep coming back as a repeat customer, then that helps me long term, and if
yeah.
it makes you feel comfortable, that's great. So yeah, if we can make it where, that, this is the old draft, and you get the new draft comes in today, actually.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Well, you
so
had one on your last year draft, your 3rd round pick, that center field of Naring was on my radar. I was trying to get him, hoping he would drop until the 5th round, which is where I had
this
him
past
pushed
year that
in.
just happened.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Because I wanted him.
Yeah, let me see here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I was thrilled that he fell there,
Yeah.
but where was I going with that? I was saying uh
About the taking
trading, yeah.
advantage.
So,
Yeah.
but like if it works out where both teams get what they want, and it's hard. Like I recognize my shortcomings as a trader. Like I'm cheap, so
Yeah.
and so I know that I'm going to be a ball buster in that area. And so like I'm the same way in free agency. I'm not the guy that usually goes out and signs a guy with the compensation tied to him. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying like that's just my mentality going in. So I try to
Yep.
like work around that. But like the aspect of trading is finding someone that, like, I always try to be as honest as I can. Like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I think. This is why I'm thinking about it. And then, hopefully like both sides make out. And it usually a good trade is something that you kind of had to think about, like, at
Yeah.
least for a couple minutes. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair. I'm giving up something, but I'm getting something back that I need,
Yeah. Well, and I feel real comfortable working with Sam. Is he Kansas City here, I think?
Yep. He's Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's one of the ones that I'm always, I know that he's wanting to make his team better, and he's not, even when I was younger in this, didn't feel like he was taking, because I got Tristan Cry from him, and he's been a great pick for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Great
It,
pickup. And
it,
hopefully the guys I traded for him, because I'm always like, oh my God, what if that guy turns into Mike Trout or
right.
something?
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny too, because you have the aspect of when you're a really good team, like we were saying, like Mike from Arizona, right? He's good in every league. And so he has the unfortunate thing. As soon as you go trade with him, it's almost like how MLB teams should be when they trade with like the Tampa Bay Rays or the Dodgers, or the Braves. Like, all right, well, what does he see that I don't? So there's almost an apprehension to trading with something like that. Like, and we were talking a little while about, I guess last season, about trading. He wanted this dude that we showed earlier, and he offered me the world. And at the time, he was like my next outfielder coming up, and I really liked that he was a captain and his range was better, but I liked all these bars. But if it wasn't, and of course I don't really know this, but if it wasn't Mike that was offering him, and it was whatever, Sam or you or someone else, maybe I wouldn't have had my eyes as open, like, oh, this
Yeah.
guy must be a winner. So there's almost like a downfall sometimes to being a GM that has that much success. Tim, from Detroit, or Hammer Time from Nashville, or before that Keegan.
Yeah.
There's those teams, like I said, in real baseball as well, that you just kind of have to open up your eyes again. Like, all right, if they're asking me, there must be some reason. And sometimes it's just because they have a need, but they're not trying to snake you. But
well, and I do. I used to not even watch the transaction channels, like the trade needs, trick and front, never. But now I'm starting to, whenever Mike makes a trade, I'm looking, and your boy Scott from FLG, he knows what the hell he's doing. He's good at this.
I hate to say it, but he does.
I don't want to make his head any bigger, damn it. But
it's almost impossible. But
I don't know how it could. But it is. I'm just like, you start looking at what are they seeing? Because I don't see it, and it's like there's got to be something there. So, and that's the great thing about this game, because it opens that up, and it's not our money.
Well, right, exactly. Well, it takes all things. It's the same thing in MLB. You have guys like the Seattle GM, drawing a blank off the top of his name right now.
Poto, is Poto still there?
Who would you say? Who was it?
Dipoto?
Yeah, Jerry Dipoto. Yeah, or you have AJ Preller from San Diego. You get all of these personalities that like have different, or Tampa Bay, or Friedman in LA. You have these guys that look for different things, and that's kind of cool. But here, same thing. I think there's a lot of people that do look for exactly the same thing, but you have a lot of differences. Like, I know that I get hung up on pitchers and I told Mike this before when we were trying to trade, but if, like, for me, if I have a pitcher that has anything under this guy's pretty studly. He looks pretty solid. Jeremy Portek.
Yes, he is.
But and I don't remember who it was he was offering before, but like, I know for me, one of my hangups, and I'm not saying that how I feel is right, but when I have a guy that's like not like at least 50 stuff,
50.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, I personally always want a little higher, but I do think that there's some wrong thinking in that from my perspective, where I think sometimes if you have an elite like movement and control, the stuff like, let's say Jamie Moore, you can be successful by being a good pitcher with these other elements. And so sometimes I get hung up on this stuff, whereas like Jamie Moyer was a better pitcher than Noah Syndergaard, even though Noah Syndergaard's stuff when he was in his prime was probably 70,
70s.
He couldn't pitch. He could throw.
Exactly.
And so I get hung up.
And I
on
would look at this guy, his fastball, slider, changeup are all 50 or lower. And I would instantly, my first thought is he's organizational filler.
Right, 100%. And you're probably right.
And I'm starting to pay a lot at Mike's, bless his heart. He's, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but he's like, don't spend as much time on your major league. You got to spend it on your minor system. The farm is where everything's feeding everything. That's where you spend your time. And that's what I'm doing, is spending 3/4 of my time now on the farm, checking out, I'd never even looked at those development things in Stat Plus. Never before. And they're great. They're incredible. So much stuff in Stats Plus.
It is. It's really impressive how, and the great thing about it is you can just look at it on your phone whenever you want. You don't have to be in game file. That's the one hard thing.
I didn't even know you could do that until just recently.
Okay.
Now I never have to be away from it.
Right. You're Patty's clapping or
Patty. She's like boo, blowing raspberries.
No, but those things are key, and kind of knowing your shortcomings, I think is really important. But
mine is pitching. I don't know the pitching.
But your pitching looks good, man. I mean, I think that I think that you said a couple times that they're all, intertwined, is that, in the case of like, if you're finding your pitching struggling, it's probably also related to your defense, and
Oh
so
yeah,
I noticed that my pitchers got so much better when I got a good catcher, or when in the case, like, eventually you'll sacrifice your second base offense with Gavin Lux for a better defender. There you probably, get some of those, especially if you got ground ball pitchers. Now you're
yeah.
relying on Gavin Lux to, be more than a orange cone out there.
Yeah, and that's all he is. And I think his contract's up this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah.
Might be next year. And I will. Of course, he's 36, so I'll bid him adieu as well. But yeah, I've got a couple other ones. When is his
He's
contract?
up. He's got player opts at this year, like end of
Yeah,
this
so
year. So
hopefully he opts out.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because he's going to be hard to move with that kind of salary, and I
yeah,
certainly don't want to retain it.
yeah.
Uh,
It's not too bad, like if you could find a team, again, just spitball, right? He's making 10 million. He might not sign next year. He might even retire. So if you
yeah,
found a team, like just, a team that's way out, let's say it's Sam, right? You have a good relationship with Sam. Sam's
yeah,
out of it, 10 games back. He's almost 20 games under 500. And, you know, uh, he's got money to spend, right? And let me just see if he's in a situation, to, let me see. Let's
where
say
is that?
he's got a guy that's making too much money. Let's say like this dude. All right. I don't know if you can take that money on, but if Sam wanted to shed, money in some way, you guys might be able to make a deal like that,
Yeah,
where even if you do retain some, like, again, I don't know his value on these guys, but, if you could do a Chris Mensch, and relieve Sam of, an extra 6 million a
16.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard because,
And it's hard. And Gavin Lux is so popular in
right,
Miami,
right, right,
and
right.
I've learned that there are a lot of entertainment options in South Florida because they are very fickle. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, you lose 5 games in a row and nobody's coming to the ballpark
yeah,
anymore. Look, I mean, if it's kind of like Sam's attendance. You can see mine goes with wins.
yeah, yeah. No, I got you.
So
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think I would at least try to shop him and maybe take on something else. And I don't. I mean, it's hard. You don't want to really give up a prospect. But yeah, maybe you can find a trade partner out there. But definitely,
sometimes you have to, and I'm slowly come to that realization. You got to give up something to get something.
yep,
And
100%.
if
Yeah,
I'm and this has really been the first real year that I've been in any kind of point of where I could see first place from the beginning of the year. Usually it's one of those late season when everybody's resting everybody and I'm getting a shot.
yeah,
So
right, 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 right. Well, I mean, I'm interested to see where your team goes, but you were saying like kind of scouring the channels here for trades.
yeah,
Like I agree. I think it's super important to do. Like I have a couple of routines that I do all the time. I probably said them before, like in game without fail every single time before I check out. I always check the
check the
waiver
waiver.
wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I will check the free agency too. 'Cause sometimes you'll see I have a filter on. That's always the problem.
I'm a big free
Filter.
agent for
Yeah,
18, 19-year-old free agents.
yeah, you never know. There might be just a guy that just kind of, whether he came in from independent league or whether he got
Yep.
dropped. I mean, this dude here, not that, I mean, if you're looking for, a third baseman or a first baseman, like it'd be great. I mean, he's got some, not a great personality and whatnot, but I mean, to me, like this guy's a great filler for a team that might need something. Um,
Yeah.
but going back to the trade block here, he's perfect, right? So you got your
Yeah.
Philly GM looking for a first baseman or DH. That
Yeah.
sounds like Gavin Lux to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm writing this down,
Yeah. Well,
get
that
out my sticky
right.
notes.
See, more than anything, right? I know we're ballpark the same age, right? But more than anything, writing down that note shows your age, there, Matt.
Yeah,
Not
especially
your
on sticky notes.
right. Yeah, not your RC Cola collection, not your none of that. Your 94s, you're writing down your notes.
Oh yeah.
Well, dude, I could talk to you all day, man. I love your personality and I would love to dig more into this, but I know we're already hitting the 90-minute mark here.
Oh,
And
geez, we are, aren't we?
yeah, and
Well,
I got a
dude, this
sim
has
to
been
run, and
great. It's
this is
awesome.
fun, man. So let's do this again at some point. We'll come up with some other topics to talk about. Maybe we, I'm always love the idea of like a draft recap or a player playoff preview or something like that, just to kind of keep it going. We can have other people join, but this is a perfect
Exactly.
example.
This. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, I've known you in through text communication through some of these things, but like you, as others have been, as a prime example of why I yearn to do these, because it just brings out the real person, and doesn't just hide it behind text, because there's a lot of different contexts and people have different forms of involvement in there. And so yeah, actually wanted to meet you guys, and this is great because I had no clue about a lot of that stuff, or you elaborated on a little bit of stuff I did know, like music things. But people should know personalities like you in all these leagues, and you have a lot to offer, and you're open to learning, so that's a great combination. So I appreciate your time.
And I think having these kind of things really push the whole participation thing. I know we do this in our online NHL 95 league, and it is a 32 GM, so to speak, players that are, we're on Discord all day long with each other,
Yeah,
well into the night. And it's because of these. Everybody gets on these. We do them once a week
that's
with
great.
different people.
Yeah.
And so when you started doing this, I was like, this is how people, you like, I want to interact with Shane now. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
get him
yeah.
drinking
Oh,
and
yeah.
then interact with him.
We'll have Shane on. We
Cheers
might have
to
to
you,
do it.
Shane.
We might have to do it late night with Shane. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm
Otherwise,
learning all of y'all guys like to do this late night shit. I'm like 9 o'clock. It's time to go to bed. I'm old, man.
well, it's there's always just times you got to sneak it in. So I have the luxury of like weeks like this where work, so I can sneak it in while I'm doing work. But
Yeah.
otherwise it's like, when's the family sleeping?
Yeah. Well, and I also coach 3 youth baseball teams.
Wow.
So at
Yeah.
5 o'clock, I'm out the door going to the ball field every day of the week, and
Yeah.
usually don't get back till 8.
Good for you,
So
man. Well, hopefully your jovial personality and your love for the game seeps into the kids. So I think you have a
I hope so too. I
good to offer.
hope so too.
That's awesome,
Cool.
man. Well, I appreciate your time, and apologies to your wife.
Yeah. She says,
uh,
fuck you.
right. I'm gonna run this sim in a couple minutes, so I hope your team does well. Keep an eye out on it, and yeah, let's do it again, man.
All right, man. Appreciate it,
I
brother.
appreciate it. Have a good day.
All right. Talk to you later, man.
Thanks,
See ya.
man. See ya. Bye.